Hi, welcome to Thank You Half Hour. I'm your host, Tom Christopher Warren, and I am over the moon. My next guest today is an old friend, well, a young friend who I've known a long time, so not an old friend, but a great pal from years ago. Moviegoers will know him from many a franchise, the Aquaman franchise, the Insidious franchise, the Conjuring franchise, the film adaptation of Phantom of the Opera, the HBO spectacular interpretation of Angels in America. Incredible stuff. But theatergoers, it's a theater podcast, so you could assume that he's got a background in theater. You'd be right. Original Broadway cast of the full Monty, Tony and Drama Desk nominations. Revival of Oklahoma, Tony and Drama Desk nominations. He's a film star, a TV star, a Broadway star, a family man, and a heartthrob. Please welcome Patrick Wilson. Patrick.
Man, hi. You should do all my intros.
I do my research. How are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I forgot that you're a Jersey boy. I guess I did know that you and the family are in Jersey now, but I forgot that. That's where I'm from originally.
Yeah, where are you from?
Originally
Where?
Edison.
Oh, Edison. Right,
Yeah,
right,
but
right,
then
right.
the last 10 years we were there was Maplewood with all the other
Right. Yes, yes,
theater
yes.
folk.
That I knew because I feel like you're either in, if you go from uh Manhattan to either Park Slope or somewhere to Brooklyn and then come out
Maplewood.
this way.
Yeah.
And most I feel like I think it was maybe Norbert or something had mentioned I always use his line, which I'm sure you know too. He's like, well, there's Maplewood, there's Maplewood, and there's Maple Hood, which I
Absolutely.
think is terrible but funny. No, I'm in Montclair. I'm just a few towns north,
Yep.
but I go to Maplewood quite frequently. We've got a theater in South Orange right there. So right next to at SOPAC, which is a cinema that a
Yeah.
company runs. So I'm over there when I can,
Yeah.
and I love it.
I remember Sandy Rustin was running SOPAC there for a little
Sure.
while. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good time. How long have you been there?
We've been in Montclair 15 years. It's crazy.
15 years. How you have two boys? Yep. How old
Two
are they?
boys, one's about to graduate high school. Yeah.
Uh, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he's 18. Yeah, I know. It's great. He'll be 18 next week. Yeah.
This is not me bullshitting. I'm legit gobsmacked. You are kidding me.
No, yeah. Two high schoolers. We're about to be down to one. Yeah. No, he's we moved out here when he was like maybe, well, I guess do the math, like three, and
Yeah.
the other guy was and we kept our place in Brooklyn. We were in Greenpoint. Um and and yeah, so we've been out here. Yeah. So I've got an 18, almost 18-year-old. Very funny.
I
Yeah.
was not ready for that information at all. Well, I guess time is a construct, but I forget that we worked together, like, I suppose almost 30 years ago.
Almost 30 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. But of course it's all of our friendships and good times from that have all come to light in the past year
Yeah.
because of revival that sadly closed. We're
I
talking
know.
about Harmony
Yeah.
people
Did you get to
that
see
we
it?
did. I saw it downtown.
You
I
did.
did not get to see it uptown.
At Folks Bean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was really because they were giving I presented Barry with an award. So they invited me to come down there to give him the award. So I sat at the table with Bruce, and I know you know
Oh,
very, very well. So I sat with Bruce and Barry and their partners, and um, yeah, and we were just reminiscing. And I said, look, we've all done tons of shows, tons of projects. It's been a long time, and I know it just seems like the night to say, oh, but I never forget this. But in truth, I never forget this show, and so much of it so much that I'm reminded literally every time I go through my living room because that
yeah.
lithograph they gave us.
Yep.
So you know where this is going. And I was like, so everybody comes in and was like, what does that mean, harmonious? And I have to explain the whole show, and it's great. And we've had that thing literally since 1997.
Yep.
And then Bruce goes, oh, well, you'll love it now because downstairs it's literally the front script. And I was like, oh, that's great. So I didn't know they used it as a whole set piece. But yeah, that was such a special time, wasn't it?
It was special. It was traumatic. It was thrilling. Because in the couple of months that we were in La Jolla, Princess Diana died. And
Yeah.
so that was kind of something that rocked the whole
Yeah.
world.
That's
And we were there, experiencing that together. And then we had production stuff that we were, stuff you go through when
yeah.
you're developing a new musical. And then Jason got sick, Jason
And Jason.
Opsahl.
Yeah.
And that happened, I think, days before Tech. So
Yeah.
Mark Schmiel flew out and
Yep.
learned this huge role and
Yeah.
was in costume in 24 hours. The whole thing was just
Yeah.
like a fever dream. And it was for me,
Yeah.
formative,
Yeah.
developing a new role in a new show with
Yeah.
people like you and Danny Burstein and Rebecca Luker and Janet Metz. And like, it was just unbelievable and a beautiful story. Like at the end of the day, we
Yeah.
were also really proud of the product. So it was formative in many
Yeah.
ways. And I've gotten
Did you see it
to,
uptown?
I saw it uptown. I saw it in LA at the Amundsen. Now again, time is a construct. Maybe that was 10 years ago. Maybe that was a little longer. That
Oh,
was the
wow.
first production I saw that I wasn't involved in. So I went in a little bit, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And the guy who played Harry, whose name escapes me, was brilliant. And so I had sort of, I had my closure by that point because I saw the production. It was beautiful. And then this go around, they really made the structural changes with Danny's role, Brian Darcy James' role now,
Yeah.
Chip and Danny Kornfeld. Really, I
Right.
thought, really effective changes to
Yeah, I agree.
the framing device, which was beautiful. It holds a place in my heart that I'll never, forget.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll never
Agreed.
forget that you left me a fucking tarantula on my dressing station
Remember
in a
that. I really
Ziploc.
don't remember that. At least it's in a bag, right?
You did, and at least it was dead. What occurred to me this morning as I'm prepping for this was that you drove with a dead tarantula in your car, in a rental car from Tijuana. Like,
Sure.
that would haunt my nightmares forever.
It was really cool. It's so funny that you texted me that because I swear to you, I meant this in the text. It's true. Yesterday, one of those things, just some dumb thing came up on Instagram, like, can you find the tarantula? And I was like, I can. And it made me think like the only time I've ever really seen a tarantula up close is when me and Stephen Goldstein, very Harmony, were in Joshua Tree or somewhere around there camping. And
You
and
went
I
to
saw,
Tijuana. You
yeah,
crossed the border. And I think I think you got pulled over too. I think you got shook down because you were,
yeah, we
four
did.
Americans in a rent-a-car. And
Yeah,
Clow, wasn't
had to pay
Clow
off
with
the
you?
cop.
Yeah, you had to pay off the car. I remember that.
Yeah, that was really scary.
And I was
Yeah.
like, this is what comes of not just chilling on the beach on your day off. You adventures.
A bunch of just young, stupid white dudes in a white rental car. Like, what? No. I
Just
mean,
dumb.
it was terrible. It was like, yeah, I really thought, is this the day I go to jail?
Yeah,
Um,
I remember that.
yeah, and we got pulled over, paid off a cop, which I never bribed anyone. I didn't know how even that was going to work. But it was like one of those bad commercials. Like you were going you're going 30 miles out, 20 miles speed limit. I was like, I was? I don't feel like I was, but we had to come down to jail and pay it off. And I was like, no, no, no. And then he was just like, oh, you could take care of it here. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
yes, hang on.
I don't even think we had cell phones then. Like,
No,
right? Like you were
I
just
didn't have cell phones.
in
No, nothing.
Mexico in a rent-a-car with three other dudes and the cops.
No, I would have been calling Mary Kay Wilson back in St. Petersburg, Florida, saying,
Yeah, you
Mom, me
would
and my theater
help.
buddies are in a Mexican jail.
Just, oh God, we were all so stupid. What
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, a lot
Yeah.
of this podcast is centered around inspiration, what inspires people to get into a life in the theater.
Yeah.
And your dad worked in broadcast TV, right?
Yeah.
For a long
Yeah.
time. For how long?
Yeah. 50 years. My brother took over.
Really?
Yeah. My brother's the anchor in Tampa. He's at Fox 13. Yeah. My dad was there. Well, at one point he had been with all the stations there. Yeah. See, so my mom was a choir director and a singer. Uh,
Got it.
yeah, yeah. And she became a voice teacher when I went away to college. But she was not a private voice teacher until probably maybe like 1990. Kids were always,
Oh, wow.
but because then when we grew up, nobody really got voice lessons unless you're like an adult. It was not these teenagers saying, and she
Right.
would every now and again get the parent to be like, "Can you teach little Johnny how to sing?" And
Yeah.
the kid's like 12, and she was like, "No, that's not me. Their voice isn't ready yet. Have them just sing in a choir, sing in a chorus, just sing for fun, just keep yourself musical." So that's how I grew up. So yeah, so dad was but when he went to college, they didn't have broadcasting degrees, and so he just did theater and communications, and he loved doing theater. So they met on, I don't know if they met on Camelot, but they were in Camelot together.
No.
A lot, yeah. And that was a very pivotal moment for me in high school because I I was never, I'm one of three brothers, and yes, we were always the kids who left sports early to go to choir, but like we weren't really savvy in musical theater, like
Hmm.
I didn't really understand musical theater. You did musicals, but obviously no internet, much different thing,
Sure.
and I went to a very, very, very tiny school, so it was very insular.
Did you
And
know
it
that
was
musical theater could be a vocation, or did you know it as a
no,
hobby? Okay.
no, I didn't. I knew I wanted to be. I decided I wanted to be an actor when I was 15,
Okay.
and I went my literally because a friend of mine that we were doing shows. Like I got. Let me rewind. We all performed because of my mom and dad sort of tiptoeing in the industry. Dad was in this, so we would sing in church. So we were
Sure.
always kind of performing, but never like a straight like musical theater. We weren't quite like that. But performing just came naturally because that's literally what the whole family did. And so and I was in middle school, and my oldest brother was a senior in high school at the same school, and he was like Birdie and Connor and Bye Bye Birdie. He was like he had all these really cool parts, and he was just like yucking it up and having fun and getting a lot of attention. And I was like, "Oh, that looks cool. I want to do that." So at least in high school, I had no
Sure.
grand plans. I had no idea this could be an actual career, or whether we'd be sitting here 40 years later. So then when I was 15, my dear friend Peyton Craig, now Peyton McElroy, who was really into local theater, and like she had a kind of, as much as you could, ear to the grindstone in the 80s, but she was part of that scene. She was like, I'm gonna go to this summer intensive theater camp at Boston University. And I was like, okay, she was like, do you want to go? And I just went, sure. Like I really had no, but my point is that's where it really turned. I don't know if you have that moment, but I almost have a moment down to a class because it was, and I love looking back at this. I know you're a director as well, and when you talk to young actors, and when you can try to identify that moment in the scene, or you see when someone finally just like locks into
Yeah.
something, and like how beautiful that is, and that's why it's equally as rewarding, sometimes more rewarding, right? But I remember doing a scene, and all of a sudden and it was from a play, and all of a sudden I started to feel emotional reading the lines. That had never happened to me.
Hmm.
Nothing against, I had done Little Shop and other shows, but it was so much like my friends are out there, let me try to make them laugh.
Sure.
And all of a sudden it became very personal, and I started like, you get a little verklempt, and you're like, oh, and then you went, oh wait, that's what it is. I feel the script, and it's my job to make the audience feel what I'm feeling. Got it. That's cool. And then I literally came back from that, and it was like, their pre-college program that so
Sure.
many universities have. And that was 89. And I came back, and I told my mom and dad, I was like, it's what I want to do.
Mm.
Like act. I didn't say musical theater. I didn't know
Yeah.
where. Just said, I want to act. So I told all the coaches, like I could still play soccer, but I had to quit football and baseball because they conflicted, and I really wanted to
Yeah.
concentrate. So that was it.
It's understanding the distinction between entertaining and storytelling, right? It's that
Yeah, that's it.
when that locks in, and cut to you winding up going to arguably one of the best training programs in musical theater ever to
I
exist
think
at
so.
Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so your parents met doing Camelot, cut to you presenting Julie Andrews or performing at the Kennedy Center
Yeah,
honors for Julie Andrews.
right.
What did you tell her that story? Like what?
Um, I think it's funny. I think my dad, in typical John Wilson, if you know him, uh, but like I think he'd already probably spoiled that Camelot memory because I believe he had interviewed her and said some lines like as like she was like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, blah, blah, you know, like, okay. So we he had already had a Camelot moment
Got
with
it.
Juliet. Um, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I didn't even put two and two together. But I remember seeing his he had a videotape, which at the time it was on like three quarter, like it was,
Sure.
but he had a videotape of him uh in like 19 whatever 68 60 yeah 68 60 somewhere in
Wow.
the 60s of him, and he sang his ass off, and I was like, holy shit, it's this big booming
Yeah.
Invincible. I always remember his placement on Invincible. I was like, Jesus. And I'm like 14 or 15 watching that and going, oh wow, like, okay, I got big shoes to fill.
Well, I
So
mean, and fill them you did. You were leading the carousel tour at what were you, 24, 25,
really,
22, 22, playing
yeah,
Billy Bigelow singing soliloquy on the national tour of Carousel.
yeah.
And that was it was Nick Heitner's
It was
production,
Nick's
right?
production.
And
Yeah,
like one of the most glorious things I've ever seen in my life.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
I used to teach history of musical theater in New York, and the I don't know if you ever went to the Performing Arts Library, the Film on Tape archives
yeah,
there, but they have a conference room where you can bring a class and
yeah.
watch
Oh,
something and stop and start. And we would watch Showboat and Carousel every
yeah.
first semester I had with those kids. And Scottsboro Boys when we got to a unit on minstrelsy and vaudeville.
Oh, wow,
Yeah, it's
great.
an incredible resource. But that carousel was mind blowing.
It was the greatest. Yeah, I learned more doing that for whatever it was, six, year and a half. Um, yeah, then yeah, I think I ended. I was almost 24 by the time we ended.
How
Yeah,
old were
and
you?
I
How old were
yeah,
you when we did Harmony? I mean, I feel like
probably
it wasn't long
20
after.
25. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't long after the carousel tour. So, okay,
No, yeah.
help my memory here. Did you?
Well, 24 would have been that. What, because when
God,
in 97?
yeah, 97.
Yeah, 26. Jesus. Yeah.
So, had you done Angels before uh, Full Monty or Oklahoma? Like, had you already branched out into film and TV?
No. No, Mike Nichols saw me in Full Monty and called me in. Yeah, called my. It's yeah. I always we're still really good friends with my old agency, but like I had already I'd already left. Like I think I got nominated. I was already starting to kind of look at film. Like I knew I wanted to do film, and in my 30s, that was really kind of my goal, just out of what, like all our dreams and goals, you kind of move the goalpost if you hit one, or maybe you set one a little lower. And so once I had Mike came to see that, they tracked down my old agency. So my old agency calls me and says, hey, Mike Nichols wants to see you for Angels in America. I sent them to CAA. And I was like, a part of me died because I was like, thank you. Sorry, like um and I used to give Joel Schumacher shit because Joel Joel came. I saw him when I auditioned for Phantom, or we met on Phantom, and I was shooting a film at the time, and he was like, where'd you come from? This and that, and he said I was in Full Monty, and he goes, wait, I saw Full Monty. You weren't the original cast. I said, yeah, I was the
Yeah.
original cast. He goes, you're that middle-aged guy on the as the lead. And I was like, yeah, but luckily by this point I knew him well enough to go like, and that's the difference between you and Mike Nichols. I was forgettable to you, and Mike Nichols to me in America.
Also, if that was middle age, I mean,
No, I know.
kill me.
We were children.
Babies.
We probably had a window about maybe 10 years ago. We're like, kind of now the age to do it, fellas.
Kinda. And that was your Broadway debut, yeah, Monty?
No, my Broadway debut was the short-lived Fascinating Rhythm
Fascinating Rhythm. That's right.
with an incredible cast, P.S.
Unbelievable. Anne Hampton Callaway. Who else was in that? It was like,
Sada Ramirez, Michael Buress, um, Arias de Haas,
oh, come on.
Darius de Haas, not Aisha. It's just,
Yeah.
Darius. Oh my God,
Was
so many.
Mulaski in it? Jessica Mulaski, was that her?
No, did I say Sada Ramirez? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the list is long, and then all these dancers that were incredible. Bill Nicholas, Chris Gelfie, these guys were just, yeah, it was like the cream of the crop, but the show is just terrible. Just
Well,
terrible. Like 3 weeks. We're at the Long Acre. Sorry, Limpika. Nothing works in there.
doomed. Again, I listen. I'm not a producer, but I can't help but wonder how moneyed people sit around a table and greenlight something that just seems to have no promise when you see it. Certainly not Limpika, but these things that run for 5 minutes, and you go, well, yeah. I mean, I called that. That always baffles me.
Well, I feel like usually that comes from a successful run at a local theater somewhere,
Sure.
and they get enough money to kind of limp in, and they feel like, hey, maybe, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because there always are those question marks, for sure. Yeah.
And your boys are interested in being actors, or they're
One is my
okay.
my little guy, not really little, he's almost 5'10", but my 14-year-old. Yeah. Yeah, he's very super artistic. He's a drummer and a
Mm.
singer and loves musical theater. Um, he's at that age where he sees the older kids that have like the vibrato and he's like, I want that, and you'll get there. You just got to keep singing, just practice. So I haven't had him study with anybody yet because I would I I would probably be in there like every lesson, making sure that he's being taught right. But he won't really listen to me. So I'm at a bit of a conundrum. But I think next
Sure.
year I'm going to send him to kind of like I did. I want to probably appear pre-college at CMU at Carnegie Mellon,
Yeah.
uh, and see if he's in it to win it, which I think he is.
Really?
He'll find something in the arts. Yeah, I do. I don't know what. Um, yeah, it was really interesting, without getting too deep into it. But when he was like 10 and his older brother was like 13, they were like, because I put him in a couple movies, just like little things here and there, because
I
they'd
saw
really
that.
grown
Yeah.
up on sets. And so they said, I want an agent. And so, my wife, also an actress, and I have as I'm sure you do, like a great outlook on, I have so many positive views on the business that I don't crowd them with all the bullshit
Yeah.
because every business is bullshit. But I said, well, if we're going to do it, then we're going to really do it. And you're going to get an agent and you're going to learn what it is to go up for a role and not get 90% of them, 90,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. Now for him as a 10-year-old, he goes out and books his first job on this TV show. He was on this show Prodigal Son with Tom Payne and Michael Sheen, now probably 4 years ago, playing the young Thomas Pain.
Wow.
But it gave him my point is not look how great my kids are. My point is that it really was like, sorry, my dog. Go on, buddy. Go on. Um, um, my 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 point is that this is when my wife and I knew that he was meant for somewhere in this business. Like he was a very anxious kid,
Mm.
struggles with a lot of anxiety. When that camera was rolling, he was just like
Wow.
locked in, playing a character, felt like it, and it was like, that's the artist. That's why we do what we do,
It
right?
is.
Whether
Yeah.
it's on stage, on camera, whatever your medium is, you just, oh man, that's where I feel at home.
Yeah.
So it was thrilling to see as a parent. So we're like, wherever you go in it, man, it's the world is yours. Go for it. But like, he's an artist at heart. My other guy is more a thinker. He's a football player, and he's going to go into Bowdoin, big liberal arts school in Maine, and well, small liberal arts school, but a fancy pants art school. Study philosophy or something. So
Of
yeah.
course. Of course. What's it like to parent boys? Being I knew you as a dumb young kid.
Well, yeah, and I'm one of three, so I'm always the guy that's like, she's like, do they all like that? Like, yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
do. They'll get over it. Yeah. You
Man.
don't have kids, do you? You guys have
No,
kids?
no dogs, but no. Adam's 8 years younger than I, and we hit our biological clocks at two different times. So
Hmm.
when I was ready, he was like, "You're out of your mind." And by the time he was old enough to, like mature enough,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I was like, "We will never be able to afford children, nor are we selfless
yeah,
enough. We are both
yeah,
selfish humans and happy in our selfishness." And
yeah,
it took a while to sort of wrap our heads around that. We're great uncles, and we love kids, so
yeah,
we have the other outlets for that. Uh, yeah, it's wild when you sort of have that epiphany that you're like, okay, this isn't for us, and
yeah.
you
But
go
thank
through
God,
you go through
right?
the guilt of that, and then you find your way to and it's okay, it's fine,
It's totally,
it's
it's more than okay.
totally
It's
fine.
better than some people who use uh, the kids or even the thought of having kids is to think that that will fix something or help
Yeah.
something or make them feel whole. Or, that's not what it is. We got lucky that my wife and I really were very single and had lots of fun in our 20s. So by the time we were like 30 and ready, it was like we knew right
Yeah.
away. Like, this is what so there was never any looking back. But I don't know what that would be like to either go real young, or I'll have a lot of friends, obviously, these days that have
Yeah.
children older, but I could imagine it. Could imagine at 50, like, what happened?
What?
We have nieces and nephews. It's
I
fine.
barely have the energy to get dressed. I can't
Yeah.
imagine at this age, like supporting a human life. I can't wrap my head around it.
How much are you here in New York?
Well, so we moved to Columbus in 2017, and so I could teach. And then a few years into that, we had a global pandemic. I'm not sure if you remember that,
I
but we
heard
we that
something.
happened. And then when theater came back, Lion King, I've worked for Lion King for a million
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
it would bring me in a lot for
Right.
COVID
I remember
coverage
this.
or
I always see you on Facebook. Right, 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 right.
in and out and in and out. So I'm actually going to go back out on the road full time on the road. I say that and I'm like, check yourself. I'm going back out on the road full time in September with the tour, which will be great. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'll be in New York for July rehearsing a show I'm going to do in Aspen and subbing in at Lion King for a couple of weeks. It's great to be the guy who has costumes in storage that they can
Yeah,
just call. It's great. I hate saying
yeah.
no. Sometimes, there was a phone call at some point mid COVID. Hey, how quickly can you be in Abu Dhabi? I was like, I cannot be in Abu Dhabi this weekend. I'm so sorry. But when I can say yes, it's really fabulous.
Yeah,
It's really fabulous. And the industry's changed so much post COVID.
yeah,
And post all the strikes and post all the conversations that are happening socially, it's such a different headspace now. And just the geography of Times Square is so different from
yeah,
10 years ago. I love visiting. It would take a lot. It would take creating a Broadway show to get me to come back full time. And I'm happy to any Broadway
yeah,
producers. I'm happy to do that. But it's Times Square is hard. Midtown is hard. New York is hard.
yeah,
It's exhausting.
yeah. I agree.
It's for the young and
Yeah,
the very
I agree.
wealthy. Yeah,
I
neither
agree.
of which am I. I think the last time I saw, I could be wrong, but I think the last time I saw you was after seeing you and All My Sons. Is that
Ah,
what was that like
yeah, there
10
you
years
go.
ago? More?
Oh no, that's gonna be 14 or 15 years ago.
Wow. My favorite play.
Yeah,
My very, very favorite play. What was it
it's
like?
really
You're up
great.
there with John Lithgow and Diane Wiest and like Katie Holmes and
Yeah,
just doing this play.
yeah. It was exactly what I wanted and needed,
Hmm.
and my mid-30s to want to, the parts that I was being offered or the time that I had to do theater, to make time for theater, I wanted it to be something special and to really push me as an actor. And a director like Simon McBurney, even though it wasn't nearly as avant-garde as a lot of the work that he does, it was still, he really encouraged us to be epic and operatic in using the language. And he said one of the most interesting things. He said he would always talk about a conversation that he had with Rebecca Miller, right? Arthur's daughter, Daniel Day-Lewis' wife. He said, she said to him, my dad always wanted. Well, I'll screw up the quote, but basically saying Americans always do my dad's play so naturalistically. I'm so excited for the sake of our family estate and our name to have someone really do it operatic, to do it very to embrace the language and not run from it.
Yeah.
Because it is true. Americans tend to, with anything, with Arthur Miller, with Tennessee Williams, it's can we make this conversational and bring it to us versus go to the piece? And especially with something like that, when you read it, obviously the play, when you really read the script and you see like, oh my God, then my God in capital letters with 3 exclamation points, like that's specific. Like there's no reason to not do exactly what he's telling you. And so to go on that ride with that show, especially with John, and Diane too, but it's father son
father son,
was just an absolute dream. Yeah.
I love hearing that. I mean, it's people ask me, because I often, what's your favorite play? I say, oh, my son's. Oh, what's it about? I said, well, it's a Greek tragedy, really. I mean, the tragic elements of it are operatic in scale. So I loved that production. The first time I don't know if you know George Street Playhouse in New Brunswick, New Jersey, but I did an internship there when I was 19, and I worked in every department. I did some time in PR, some development, some where, and
awesome.
It was unbelievable for a season, 9 months, and they did All My Sons, and it was the first time I'd seen a play without music, an actual play, and I'd never really given. I was a musical kid. Musical theater was my life.
Was that always your passion?
Always.
Yeah.
And I didn't know of any other outlet. Like I knew that plays existed in theory, but there was no singing and dancing. So why would I bother? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I have no bandwidth for that. And then I saw the scale of that play, and it was really well cast and really beautifully directed, and it was a gorgeous production. I went, oh shit! It was also the same season that I saw a new musical in development, which was rough, and I remember the first time clocking, oh, not every musical is good. Fascinating.
Yeah.
And just seeing the process of developing something from the ground up. That was a great learning experience for me, that internship.
Yeah,
I wish everybody had that. Yeah. My friend, this is called Thank You Half Hour, so I gotta wrap us up because we're at a half hour. But what a freaking joy to see you and your ugly face. My God.
This has been great.
Ever handsome, Patrick Wilson.
If nothing else, what we're going for. Good life. It's been so great to see you. I hope our paths cross.
I do too. Well, I'm back in New York frequently enough these days, and in New Jersey. The hardest part of moving was the friend group in Maplewood, South Orange. That's everybody in the industry moved there. So
I mean, it's crazy. I know. It's crazy.
And it's great. Yeah. It's a fabulous community, and I miss my people. So I get back as often as I can. But
where do you teach out there?
It was Otterbein University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are you done with that now?
Yeah, they actually eliminated my teaching track after 6 years, so just cutbacks. So they had 5 acting teachers when I started. While I was there, we went down to 4, and then ultimately I was the only non-tenured teacher left, so then more cutbacks had to be made. And it's good because it gave me, I learned so much working within I had taught for years, but never full-time and never within the constraints of an accredited university. And just the red tape and politics of that taught me so much and taught me what I don't really want to wade in anymore. But I miss the classroom. Like that I miss. But the politics can kick rocks as far as it's a rough moment to be a student or a teacher. It's just in the world,
especially in our industry. I have a lot of these conversations with the folks at Mellon about that very.
I just had a great lunch with the chair of Michigan, and it's a lot of discussions about where are we right now in artistic academia? What are the conversations that are being had? What are the conversations that need to be had? Where is the generation in terms of a fundamental trust of learning? The concept of I know something you don't know, you're going to pay me, I'm going to teach you, you're going to learn it, we're all going to be happy.
Yes.
Foundationally, that's shaky.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Oh man, how great to catch up. I wish I was interviewing you.
One day. It's so great to see you, my friend. Thank you for your time. Love to the family.
Great to see you.
We'll talk soon. Take care. Thank you, half hour.
Boxland Media. Think big.